Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog Podcast. Now, I know that I usually ramble on for hours about Doctor Who, but every so often I like to discuss something else, so bear with me for a moment while I discuss Red Dwarf. This is a new series, Series 10. I was a huge Red Dwarf fan. From the very beginning, I loved it. I was blown away by episode 1. I truly was. It was 20 odd years ago and I was a different person then, mostly. Me and my mate Andy just loved it. We went away and we formed, well, it was my first excursion into true fandom, by forming, or trying to form, the Red Dwarf fan club at almost exactly the same moment that Nick Fury was doing the same. I wonder whatever happened to him. But that's the dim and distant past. The last Red Dwarf was greeted by mixed emotions from many people. I liked it. It's that simple. Other people, not so sold. The absence of a laugh track affected some people. I quite liked it. It wasn't studio-bound, it didn't have the same sitcom feel, and that made it more sci-fi, and that's what I liked. Yes, it referenced Blade Runner and a lot of films that were, 30 years out of date, but that was to be expected, and it had some still very funny gags. Yes, the slapstick was overdone, and it didn't really ring true, but it worked for me, and yes, I missed Holly, but that was absolutely fine. When Dave brought it back, we thought, oh, fair enough, they might be finishing it off. But it was a success. And a success on a channel that doesn't do much other than show repeats is a good thing. So Dave got its cash together and said it'd make new Red Dwarfs, and we thought, it's an advert channel. Red Dwarf historically lived on BBC Two without adverts. Each episode came in about 29 minutes. I wonder what they'll do. Now, Rob Grant and Doug Naylor have kind of parted the ways. They were the original creators of Red Dwarf, although their production company still owns the rights and produces this. So when I saw the slot on Dave came in at about 45 minutes, I realised that, with adverts, it was going to be about the same length as it used to be. If ever the BBC got around to showing them all, they would all fit neatly back into their original time slots. They wouldn't be augmented to be a 24 or 25 minute, with adverts, sitcom on CITV. This was interesting. This was original Dwarf. Now, we'd been told that, yes, it was the original cast back together and they were all getting along famously. It's the sort of thing you get told. Danny John Jules hasn't put on a scrap of weight and Robert Llewellyn has a touch. You can live with it. He's under a lot of makeup. Lister's just Lister, and let's face it, he's making a lot of cash in Coronation Street, so he doesn't need to do this. He's had his run-ins with the press and has calmed down, apparently, over the years. People do in time. Chris Barry's not the most well of men, but that's mainly his joints. He needs something to keep his car collection going, and he is a funny man. He can produce some seriously good lines. He's been absent a little bit from TV, so he's worthy of the work, and these are roles that have dominated these people's careers for a while. Yes, I know that Alan Rickman and Alfred Molina were offered roles and things like that, and, well, whatever happened to them? But let's face it, these people know comedy. They know television comedy, not film. Can you imagine it? Maybe it's on stage, but that's it. Now, as you all know, I get nervous before a new TV series comes on. I sit here and I think, it's going to let me down, it's going to fail me. Perhaps that's a psychological issue I can discuss another time. But I genuinely get uptight, thinking that things just aren't going to be very good, as if the whole world's going to realise. I feel this way specifically about Red Dwarf and Doctor Who. Whenever a new series comes along, I get very jumpy and start thinking the whole world's going to realise that they were right all along and things aren't very good. Well, not this time. Not with these. So I'm going to review them in bunches of 2 and slip these Tin Dog podcasts out as and when I feel like it. So the first 2 Red Dwarfs, which have now been broadcast as of recording this podcast. The first, X10, or Red Dwarf 10, episode 1, was called Trojan. Now, my high expectations I tried to knock on the head so that I could simply enjoy it, because it felt and looked a lot like old Red Dwarf. Yes, not Series 3 with its white gleaming sets, but Series 2 or maybe Series 4 or 5. Good, but not spectacular. But perhaps that's because of my ridiculously high expectations. Now, for those of you who have also read the Red Dwarf books, and trust me, I have, Rimmer's family play a huge role. His competitions with his brothers and so on have always dominated his life. His self-loathing and guilt, something I've taken on board as a bit of a role model myself, made his life hell. Well, here it comes to the fore. It's corrupted his own hard drive. It's made him incapable of learning anything new or becoming a better person, because it's filled his entire database. Well, here they try and get rid of that evil, that self-loathing. Of course, it's a Star Trek rip-off as well, or Mickey take, which is brilliant. There are whole chairs of buttons just for captains on board a derelict. Finding more derelicts is fine, but they are travelling closer and closer to Earth, so they will be finding more and more ships. They're passing at the edge of droid space. The human race is still officially gone, but there's a lot of simulants out there, a lot of Gelfs, a lot of androids. They're all cluttered around the universe, but everything is from Earth. They've only ever come across one alien craft once. And that, well, that was a debatable thing. They shouldn't have done it. The idea of us being completely alone in the universe was at Red Dwarf's core, and is something that I held very dear. I loved the fact that Arnie loved aliens, and he thought they would save everything. But it just wasn't going to happen. That one episode with alien technology just bugged me. Everything else has been some sort of human offspring. Let's leave it there. I've read into this far, far too much. The basic plot consisting of coming across a derelict, receiving a distress signal, having to meet Arnie's holographic brother, and meeting the ridiculously psychotic female alien robot. Could be a recurring theme. Oh look, here's a female character. She's making things worse. Just kind of worked. It didn't seem overly complicated. It didn't seem overly worked up. And the audience were very appreciative. Can I just say it's absolutely wonderful that they had a live audience in this day of Twitter and the internet, and we don't know what happened in the episodes. That's brilliant. That actually gives me hope for the future. I've stayed away from Twitter. I've stayed away from Facebook for these very reasons. I don't want to know. I want to enjoy life myself. Vicarious television just isn't for me. I don't want to know that other people have enjoyed something if I can't enjoy it myself. It might be self-centered, but knowing that somebody's having a lovely piece of toast, it just isn't for me. You all know my book's coming out. It's fine. I'm sure if you want to tell everyone else on Twitter, you can. But I'm staying off Twitter and I'm just not there. Back to Red Dwarf. The episode itself was well made, well crafted and well thought out. I liked it. I was back on board, which brought us neatly to episode 2, Fathers and Sons. That's sons spelled S-U-N-S. Now, it's a well-established fact that Dave Lister is his own father in a sort of Ouroboros episode. Sadly, this is one of the episodes that was watched when a lot of people were watching Red Dwarf. The hardcore fans have accepted that, and in this episode it's kind of skated over nicely and simply by Crichton saying, yes, you are your own father and you left yourself under a pool table. And the audience just go, yeah, fair enough, it's Red Dwarf. That's the sort of mental thing that happens in this programme. It's a bit similar to, say, modern Doctor Who going, so, Doctor, yes? Do you remember being on that planet where everybody turned into animals? Yes, I do. Okie dokie, glad we've covered it then. And referencing Survival, which was watched by 3 people and a cat. The cat really enjoyed it. But that works. Here, it works. Here, we can get away with it because we're Red Dwarf fans and we just accept it. Because it's not a family show. It's targeted just at us. And we can live with that. Because if we've tracked it down on Dave and set our recorders and we're watching it, we are already fans. That's fine. It's got an A plot and a B plot, just like proper fiction. And it's pure Red Dwarf. The A plot, let's install a new replacement for Holly, the shipboard computer, and it's got some sort of predictive text thing going on, so it can work out their actions before they do them, and then follow through and then produce results. And the B plot of Dave trying to better himself by being a better father to himself than he was his own father. That's a great t-shirt. You need a picture of Dave Lister and Dave Lister going, I am your father. And the hilarity that ensues. The AI is really good. Arnie's choice of the female characteristics is hilarious to watch. It is classic, old, second series Red Dwarf. These things are not something to be ignored, not something to be walked away from. I just loved them. Big fan, really looking forward to the rest of the series. Now, I have heard rumours that the next episode is potentially blasphemous. Not blasphemous in a string 'em up kind of way, but blasphemous from a Red Dwarf fan kind of way. Because I think it implies that Arnold Rimmer's family weren't Advent hoppists, as said in the early series, but were actually worshippers at the Church of Judas. That we'll have to get back to. But until then, when I'll be reviewing episodes 3 and 4, be seeing you. You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are copyright of the BBC. No infringement is intended. To contact the show, email tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. To order, or simply find out more about the book Whostrology, the Time Traveller's Almanac, visit whostrology.com. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.
Urgent subspace communication incoming.
On the weekend of the 9th, 10th, 11th of November 2012, there's going to be a Doctor Who convention. In Stockton, there will be Dimensions. This is the grandchild of the old Dimensions on Tyne conventions. The list of guests is fantastic. Sylvester McCoy, Peter Davison, Fraser Hines, Louise Jameson, Terry Malloy, Bernard Hawley, Nabil Shabang, Roy Holden, John Levine, John Leeson, Spencer Welding, Ian Cullen, Beth Chalmers, Virginia Hay, David Cyberman Banks, Martin Cochrane, Adrian Burgess, Terence Dix, Brian Croucher, Richard Watson, David Richardson, writers Matt Fitton and Mark Wright, Michael Troughton, the Ken Bentley, and of course David J. Howe and Sam Stone, author of those reasonably popular zombie books, all taking place in Stockton. There are tickets still available, and I for one am definitely going, because that's the weekend that I'll be there, able to sign copies of Whostrology. So if you see me there, say hi. Visit the 10th Planet website, and you can book directly through them.
Urgent subspace communication incoming.